Wondering if your device supports the Mixed Reality Toolkit? Well, I have great news. The Mixed Reality Toolkit has cross-platform support. So what that means is that you're pretty flexible with regards to which device you could actually use. Now, beyond the HoloLens and the HoloLens 2, you can deploy projects that make use of the Mixed Reality Toolkit to a variety of devices, which include the HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, Oculus Quest, Android and iOS devices, as well as the Leap Motion by Ultraleap.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today in the XR Global Conference. Today, we have a very exciting talk with two amazing entrepreneurs. They are Sonia Sedarasa and Jal Shah. They are going to be speaking about the rise of virtual worlds so we can imagine how it would be living in a world of so many possibilities. Thank you so much, Sonia and Jal. I'm going to call you to the stage to chat a little bit about your amazing enterprise. How is everything going?
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, I think that we can start by maybe sharing a little bit about you and what the talk is going to be about and any other detail that you want to add.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about some of the things that we have seen for the past, I don't know, like 1 year building up walls. What do we see in the virtual walls, and what do you have to do if you want to build virtual walls, and the activity that we have seen rising up, the potential of the virtual walls itself, and for those people who are interested in getting their hand into virtual walls, either building it or using it, where can they get it?
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that we can get started. And if there are any questions, we're going to be addressing them at the end. So I'll come back at the end. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so the stage is yours. Thank you.
Okay, so we can share the screen now.
Are you guys able to see our slides?
Actually, you're muted, so
No.
no, I can't see your slides.
Okay. Let's just share the screen.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So thanks for waiting, everyone. There was some issue with the slide sharing, but thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to be here. So today we're going to be talking about the rise of the virtual walls and what do we see. So I'm Sonia. I'm the founder of Upwalls, and this is my co-founder. This is Jay. So together we built a community of wall builders and platforms where we support the discoverability of virtual walls and their builders along with their creation that eventually can hopefully lead to the creators economy. So we have been building this for about a year now, and with that we have met like so many different people with networks, and we have like an awesome community. And based on those communities, we have a couple of use cases that we see a lot of the people are loving, and some of the potential use cases in the market. So let's dive deep into it. I hope that some of you who are already here today have of course experienced like virtual walls, and if you haven't, I know that XR Global has got like a networking session in Altspace, so definitely check out that one. But basically, a little run through of like the virtual world, as we all know it, is that it's a simulated computer simulated environments that we can navigate around with avatars. There's so many activities that we can do together inside the virtual worlds. Initially, when we built up worlds, there was a lot of questions about like the appropriation of the virtual worlds itself apart from socializing, because as we all know it, and if you have been in this industry for quite a while, all the virtual worlds started with socializing, right? Like you just go there, jump there, and then you meet your friends and you chit chat, and that's how you kind of like network. But um, the functional itself that could actually lead to the commercial usage of it was still like in it's still like in a questions. Like a lot of the people are actually wondering about that. Luckily, with the community, we do see some of this like started to rise up that I'm very excited to kind of like share with you guys today. Okay. So one of the value proposition of our community is that we have so many platforms that are rising in the market today. We have Altspace, we have Gather, we have VR Chat, Somnium Space, all of amazing and amazing platforms. Today, when you see this, we have 10 platforms, but a week from now, probably we have 20 already. Every day, new platform are rising, but at the bottom of all those platforms we share like one common thing, which is like the world buildings, the world builders, world building experience, and the worlds. And though each one of these platforms, they're unique in their own way, they cater to different target market, I would say, but the fundamental of everything are the same. So one of the value proposition of Upworlds is that we are platform agnostics. We don't support like just one platform, but basically we support the builders who build like in these platforms, to give them discoverability. So in Upworlds, you can find different peers of builders and creators that come from a different social platforms, and it has been amazing so far. So coming from that ground, there are a couple of learning insights that we have seen in the community and in the market as well. And that is that apart from socializing, of course, like users are basically platform agnostic. So they don't really care about the platform. What they care about is the experience. The second thing that they care about is that the device, where is it supported on? Because not everybody has got like a VR headset, right? And even if you do have a VR headset and you want to introduce this awesome worlds or technology to people, to your audience, suppose like you, the first thing you would want to know is like, if my audience has got these devices or not, or like what do they have. So understanding about like which world can be open in a which device becomes like a big consideration for people. And the third one is that they're all are just hungry to see like the appropriation of this virtual worlds itself. Okay. So moving forward, I'm going to walk you through about like a couple of things that we have like within the community and have been used for like some of this have been used for commercial use, and some of the appropriation of this world as well. The first one we have here is what the Meta Point Cloud by one of our builders called R2. So this is like a gallery portfolio. So this has been used by a photographer who wants to give like a better and immersive experience to their audience. So instead of like just like going to sorry instead of just building like a normal portfolio, so she built like an immersive portfolio, and this is built on hubs. And so she started sharing all this link around so people can just open this link from mobile, from phone, sorry, from mobile, from laptop, from headset, and it's very convenient. So this is actually one of the gallery portfolio that and this builders he basically built this with an idea of like a storytelling about like how he direct people to make sure that the photography portfolio is telling like a storytelling for the users as well, which is so amazing. This is something that you can see inside Upworlds as well. These are open for rent if you're looking for this kind of worlds, and even these builders are one of our commissions builders, so he is very open to like building for people as well. The next one is one of me and my partner also favorite worlds, which is like it's called the Madana launch. So Madana launch is built by one of our builders called Tajasuka, and so he's so amazing. So this world was inspired by one of the city in Indonesia. It's Bali. So if you guys know Bali, if not, Google it, or you must come to Bali and see this. But if not, you can also like visit the virtual worlds that is built like on top of like the Bali vibes. So this world has been built to cater like parties and get together, so people can experience like a night vibes, like a very party vibes. You can invite your friends, you can meet your friends, and you can this world is also based in Outspace. So while you're checking out the networking session, if you want to check out this world, just search for Madana launch, and you can definitely like find this world. And if you ever want to use this world for any of your events, definitely check out this they're open for rent as well, so definitely check out this one. The third one is also one of my personal favorite because I have like I have a strong feeling for like cultural heritage. This was the ancient Athens Acropolis by one of the builders called Lida. So she had a personal interest with the cultural heritage, and so what she did is that she researched a lot of this, like from books, from library, and she started building these walls. If you go to Athens today, you won't find this anymore, like because this was like that was buried to the ground already. But when she built this in like with an intention of bringing people back, like literally a journey to the past. You can walk around this world, you can see what happened there, like where the god is there, like what people experience there. And she had done like a great job which she put like a good like a good sound and immersive experience, so that you can pass the market and actually feels like you're hearing people are like haggling around. So uh, definitely something that you will enjoy if you love cultural heritage. And if you ever and so this builder, she built for cultural heritage, any basically she has like a personal interest on that one. So if you ever want to build something similar for maybe for education, or for like tourism, or like maybe something like that within that area, definitely you can contact her through Apples as well. She's very much available, and she would love to meet people who has the same interests. The next one is a digital twins. So digital twins is something that we have seen, well, not many, but definitely is quite interesting use cases. People who built like based on the real physical environments. So this was built by one of the builders from Japan called Hiroshige. So this is a Huabon train station. So in Japan, if you go to Japan, I've never, but if you ever go to Japan and you've seen, like, you ever stumble upon this train station, so he made the same replica one of it, so people can kind of like experience it. This world is nested inside a VR chat, and the nice thing about this world is that so he had built a couple of like worlds in a connection of this world. So when you board a train here, he had built like the replica of like a couple of stops, literally like the real one, the physical one. So you can board the a train, and then you can kind of like being transferred to like another station. So you can basically kind of like roam around this Huabon area at night on a winter night. It's beautiful. And this is one of the potential use cases that we see are coming up. So one of our builders, Akumi, he's from Sweden. So he had a personal interest on language. And so he has been building a walls to teach people how to learn different language. Not per se like for you to learn the language, but mostly like to experience the language. So this is one of the world where he talks about like the Celtiberian, and this is definitely an education world for language. So, and he's very much open to renting it out. It's about like $20 per month. So if you ever want to like use this for education, you want to bring your student, you want to or you have like some language in mind. Today he has about like, I think he's building about his 60th language. So he has like a personal interest on language. So if you ever want to do like something similar with your own language, or like some language that you see that have been perished from the ground, and but you want to kind of like relive that, for any activity, this builder is like the one for you. Definitely contact him like through Apples. And coming on to the design tools, I am going to pass this over to my co-founder, Jay. Take it over.
Oh, hi everyone. Hope you can hear me. So let me just present it again. Um, Okay, so basically, if you want to become a world builder, there are some fundamental tools that have sort of become like an industry standard. So the first one would be Blender. Of course, you can use any 3D modeling tool, but Blender is the de facto means by which most people enter the industry because firstly, it's free, and secondly, it's extremely powerful and also open source. So those three form the trifecta of the trifecta factors that make it something that everyone can access. And the other tool is Unity. So in the VR industry, there are two major tools that you can use to build. So Unity or Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is actually much heavier, and in my opinion, at least, it's much more realistic. But that does not always translate to a very good VR world because it's very heavy and at the end of the day, a VR world is only as good as its performance. So I'm just going to go through a few things about what makes a good world. So should you wish to take up world building, or if you ever come across a world and you want to be able to assess it in any way, so these are some tips you can or some aspects that form a good world. And these are largely not subjective; they are objective measures. So things like uh, frames and it's very visible that it's a good world. So there are four categories. The first will be lighting, sound, textures, and the most important, because I'm an architect, so for me it would be space. That's the most important. So so when it comes to lighting, we have so there are three aspects that are key. So the first one is shadows. So a lot of builders tend to miss out on this because shadows are quite expensive in terms of processing, especially if it's a real time shadow. And what do I mean by expensive? That means that it takes a lot of it takes a lot more rendering strength on your computer's end to generate it. So, but at the same time, every space, yeah, as long as you're able to see the space, there's a shadow present. So shadows are the one thing that can break the immersion of your world. Next one, the next thing would be lens flare. So lens flare is quite important if you intend to create a very atmospheric environment, where if you like look into the sun, you would see some form of like the beads of light, and that actually adds additional form of immersion and wonder, I would say. And the last one is lighting halo. Sorry about spelling mistake. Lighting halo is when you put a downlight or any lighting, and there's a certain ring of light that forms around the space. So you can use it to define different zones, or you can use it to create a much more realistic environment versus the typical single light source and universal illumination that most worlds have. So in terms of like lighting, we have two worlds on Apples that are really good at this. Some of them you may have seen earlier also, but we're only covering the new ones. So first we have the house on the ocean. So in this world, the most beautiful part of it would be the skybox that the builder has used, which is actually rendering in real time. So it makes it a very magical experience if you're hanging out there with your friends. And he's also put in lots of functionalities as well, so you can actually play games with your friends as well. Yeah. The second one is again by Hiroshige. So in this case, if you take a look at the world, right, you'll be able to see like the incredible sunset that is going on as in like your endless train journey. The train always seems to be moving, and the light follows suit. But the differentiator here in terms of lighting is that you can actually see the light rays, which if in the sunset you would be able to see those same lines across the furniture, across the in the environment. And the lighting here also emanates a very strong glow, which renders the space in a much more immersive and realistic fashion. So the next aspect, which actually a lot of builders tend to forget, is sound. So in VR, the like if you consider the typical archaic five senses, you would have sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. In VR, you only have the ability to experience sight and sound. Taste is not taste, taste and touch, sight, sound, taste, touch. Yeah, anyway, so you can only experience sound, and you can only look at things and hear things. So sound is basically 50% of the experience, which a lot of people tend to forget. So you can build the most beautiful world, but if it does not have any sound, it breaks the immersion and it makes the world far less realistic and immersive. So one of the worlds which we found that the sound has the strongest effect would be the Room of Rain. So this is basically like a cabin on a high up skyscraper where there's always the sound of rain. And if psychologically, when we hear the sound of rain, it creates a very calm and cozy and atmosphere, which accentuates the realism of the world. And you actually feel like, oh, like you want to be curled up and with like a cup of hot cocoa or something like that. So that's what he it's his intention. And sound is the leap from making it a good world to an excellent world. We have another world by one of our builders, Alan. So it's a Brooklyn rooftop. This is one of the earlier worlds in alt space, and it was quite revolutionary in the sense that there were multiple zones, and it was one of the few that actually had a lot of architectural planning that went into it to create a world that could be used like as an after meeting hangout space. So Sonia used to host workshops, and this would be where she would come after the workshops for casual chats and hangouts. So in this case, what the builder did was at the periphery of the world, there's a sound of the water. So when you're looking out at the city of New York, you would actually hear the sound of the water as you gaze across. Next, we have textures. So textures are one of the more complicated aspects of world building, I would say, where you have to compromise between resolution and performance. So, uh, without getting way too technical into this, typically you have to get a middle ground in terms of resolution to get the maximum output in terms of realism. Other things that textures should have would be tiling, which means it needs to be tileable. If not, you would see very distinct line breaks between the images, and that breaks the immersion as well. And you would need depth. By depth, I would mean either a normal map, a displacement map, or a normal displacement or bump map. So those are the aspects of the world that actually create realism, because any texture you see in reality, if you touch it, you will be able to see micro shadows or ambient occlusion. So these are very important when you're generating a texture, because if you're going to model it, it is extremely complicated, and like a single tile would have like hundreds and thousands of tiny bumps, which is versus just having a bump map, which is much lighter computationally as well. So one of the worlds that has done this extremely well is by Saya. So Saya is part of a small world building company, and they're expanding rapidly, just as this entire metaverse space is. And in this world, he has gone to the extent of creating food on the table, and just adding a lot more dynamic aspects and moving elements, so the entire roof can retract. It moves. There's a screen that comes up in front of you as and when, like on demand. If you can, on my screen here, right, the screen, you have to use a remote to press it, and it comes out of that box. So that is something. This is one of the more extreme worlds we have in the realism department. So if you take a look at his textures, you will see that all the lighting has minor imperfections, much like reality. So um, this is one of the worlds that I would say is the one of the more realistic worlds. And the next and the most key aspect of any VR world is space. So without getting too lyrically lyrical, I'm just going to summarize it into height, width, and length. So the use cases of the worlds have certain parameters that a typical person in reality would have experienced. So if you're going to a party in a hall, what would you as a person like anticipate it to be? So in terms of how you would go about designing that, it would be creating an enclosure that makes you feel the same way. So at the end of the day, VR is, there are no distinct limits. Your imagination is your limit. So by stretching it too far, you would actually become a lot like quite disconcerting. So there's always like a middle ground in which you can push a bit more. So in terms of height, um, to summarize it, I would say like if you're going to a party, a high ceiling is something you would expect because you don't want to be too cramped. Or if you're having like a cozy get together, maybe a big space like this would be counterintuitive and you would feel less comfortable. And this might not be something that you or your visitors may recognize consciously, but in a subconscious way, when you look around and you feel like tiny in the space, or you feel that too big in a space, it breaks the immersion and it makes your world far less comfortable. And yeah, so that's where it comes into space. So in terms of height, you have to peg it to reality as far as possible. In terms of width, um, uh, typically architecturally 1.5 meter corridors are the best, at the most ideal in terms of negotiating between too wide and too narrow. Length is how far away the next aspect is from you, because as you model and you make your space, the further away the objects are and the greater the resolution they have, they affect the rendering capabilities of the VR headset. So that is something that needs to be taken into consideration, because the larger your space, the wider the view, the more that needs to be rendered at one time by the headset or your computer. So out of this, all these four aspects, right? It's always a compromise between performance and design. And when you mesh those two together and you find the optimal configuration, your world becomes one of the most immersive, magical worlds. So a couple of our builders do that really well. Like Taja. Taja is one of those incredible builders, uh, and Saya as well. All of them are a part of our Discord community, which I'll be plugging a bit more later, and hoping that most of you join, because it's an amazing community where people can help you pick up these skills. So I guess in we always want to know like where's the future of virtual worlds and how we're gonna get there. So I'll take so I'll speak a bit more on the more conventional side, which is the industrial aspect, industrial commercial aspect, where basically every industry has the potential to be disrupted by virtual worlds. So let's say if you wanted to go experience a retail environment, nowadays you would go on to I guess Amazon for some of you. For some of you, maybe Shopee or Lazada, or if you're in China, it may be Alibaba, Taobao. So each of you would have those e-commerce platforms. But honestly, ask yourself, that is the experience similar as entertaining or as immersive or as fun as going to a shop in real life? For some of you, yes. For some of you, no. But that retail experience at uh, your own convenience anywhere in the world is something that sort of bridges those two. And you can configure as and when your own environment. You can customize your own products. So that's an aspect of retail. That is something that like is a very exploratory feature right now. Like Nike has attempted it as well. LV, Dior both have done their own VR retail stores, and so far, based on the data that they have shared, it's been pretty successful, and it does allow a broader range of exposure for their products. And as a customer, there nothing really beats picking up an object and looking at it, which is something VR allows you to do. Real estate is another industry that VR tends to be really great in because of the connected nature of the world. But yet, right now, maybe not just in the pandemic, but in the future, people will be less inclined to travel across the world. Like if you want to see a property, you want to experience an apartment. So a lot of developers are now building digital twins of their worlds in VR. So if I'm in Singapore and and I want to buy a piece of property in San Francisco, yes, I know it's expensive, but if I want to buy a piece of property there, I'll be able to pop on a headset and experience the space. So I wouldn't be going into it blind. Yep. And those are just two of the many use cases here. If you want to know more about the use cases, we actually have done quite a bit of research in this. So just drop a question in the chat box so you can ask us later in the Q&A. And now I guess the more controversial part would be NFTs. So since Facebook has become Meta, all these incredible number of game companies expounding that they're part of the metaverse have come about, and each of them have a sort of a different interpretation of what this place will be. And I do think that there's something there in terms of the future of ownership in the metaverse, because at the end of the day, how can you own a piece of data or pixel? It's very difficult to quantify that. So NFTs allow that means of ownership. So these are just a few of the major ones that have come up, and in terms of the crypto space, they are also blowing up. But every day, a new virtual world, a new blockchain VR platform will come about. But at the same time, that increases the amount of exposure and earning potential that you as a builder would have, because your designs, your creations will drive the adoption of these metaverses and grow the space. So as the space grows, you grow as well. And now I'm sure we all know about the ridiculous valuations of many NFTs in the space, and that's definitely something that our builders can capitalize on. And if you choose to pick up building a virtual world, you can capitalize on as well. So in terms of Upwells, we have we focus on activities, and we're not so much into the NFT space yet, but we do want to make it more accessible to a layperson to adopt. So one of our key insights as well, when we've been going through this whole journey with Upwells, is that we as builders and as people in the XR space, right, we tend not to be able to put ourselves in the mindset of someone that's not in the space, and that makes it a very strong barrier to entry. Like if I was to go up to my grandfather and say, okay, so this is a VR headset, do something with it, it becomes very scary, and there's so many different platforms and it makes it very complicated. But something that everyone understands would be things like parties, workshops, exhibition spaces, cinemas. Those are very accessible for anyone to understand what you can do in VR, and that forms an entry or a gateway into this entire gigantic space. So if you want to become a world builder, or you want to be part of this amazing community where people, honestly, we have a extremely nice community with experts in a lot of major platforms. So there's Neos, there's Altspace, there's VR Chat, there's Rec Room, and there's Gather now. We have Gather Builders now, and that's a very passionate community as well, very very passionate. And you can pick those up. And we do have design office hours where we actually help. Like we have architects, much more experienced architects than myself, and V architects and 3D modelers and 3D artists who are very willing to share their knowledge with you. And these are typically courses you would have to pay for, but amazingly, our community and the builders we have, they are very passionate about growing the space together. And money is more of a hobby in their case, but at the same time, that is something that we should move forwards to, because we should move towards, because at the end of the day, creators should be rewarded for their work, and that's what Upwells believes in, and that's what we hope to bring you, all of you, on board and share this experience with you as well. So to join our Discord, you can just go to www.upwells.org, and it's very simple to just head over to our Discord community, or check out all the listings and grasp what exactly is out there, because from AR to VR to XR, there are many prongs. But at the end of the day, maybe we are looking at the Ready Player One sort of world. That's the most like outrageous way to like uh, predict the way forward. But I think, on a personal level, I think it'll be a form of a compromise between all these different aspects, and it's to your advantage to be well versed in everything. So join our community. We have amazing builders who can help you with your journey. And yes, that's it on the end of Apple's. If there are any questions, I don't think there are any questions in the chat, right? Yeah, there aren't any questions in the chat.
Thank you
So
so much. It has been amazing. I'm really blown up with all your incredible presentation. This is incredible. We do have some questions. So, yeah, that's exciting. Thank you for that amazing presentation. First of all, when you spoke about NFTs and, people getting excited about actually artists bringing forward their creations, have you ever considered giving the opportunity to the world builders that you have to mint their spaces, so if in case that they want to actually have ownership of their own spaces?
yes, so recently we had a collaboration with Mona, who is funded by Filecoin. So um, Mona is creating a decentralized, community-owned metaverse, um, and they had a bounty build competition, which allowed our builders to really stretch the limits of their imagination within predetermined themes. So there was sci-fi, there was architecture, and what was the last one?
Nature.
Yeah, nature. So these were minted into NFTs that the builders can have listed on OpenSea as well. So it was a collaboration between our two communities, and we are very open. It's not like our builders are stopped from sharing on NFTs. No, it's more. There's a high barrier to entry from building and building a metaverse world in like a social VR platform, and then going into the metaverse, because that's a very large leap, and it's slowly progressing. It's becoming more accessible, but in terms of mainstream adoption, not yet, not yet.
Okay, thank you. So speaking about app worlds, how the idea was born and how did you at the very beginning start creating the community?
I think Sonia will take this question.
Okay, hold on. I need to switch. Okay, so well, I started this about 2 years ago. Um, when that was actually my first encounterment in VR. So obviously, because I have like a design background, the first thing that I wanted to do there was kind of like to build stuff, to do like to create something, obviously. And so I started doing that in a different platforms, bit by bit, and I started meeting people, and they started coming into the world, and they were like, that's such a nice world, like how did you do that, how did you do this, and so I started like a Patreon account back then. Like so I did this workshop where I teach people about like how to build virtual walls in terms of like the experience, like 3D UX. And every week we have like so many people coming into it, and they support us a lot in terms of like they back us up in Patreon. And I think coming from there, I had the opportunity to meet with like different people who started discussing about like, so after the workshop we always kind of discuss about like the potential of virtual worlds, where do they have their ideas, and like the more people who join in hand together, like the more ideas will be there. And that's actually kind of where I see like, oh my god, there's so many activities that can be done in virtual worlds. It's just that a lot of the people are lack of appropriation of it, because their lack of knowledge. So once they understand the knowledge, then they're kind of like, oh, so that is possible, so this is possible. And that's actually where the idea of apples come um, about last December, actually exactly 1 year. Last December, I started. I stopped doing the Patreon. Used that money to build up walls, and here we are.
That's amazing. That's a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that. My other question is, I think that for Jay, and is if you can share with us a trick on how to make sure to build, an environment that looks realistic and is not so heavy. I ask that because many creators sometimes struggle with creating that very beautiful look. I know that you have a use case there from Saya. So what would you share for us in terms of how to, having a beautiful environment with not very heavy textures?
So the three key tips, is that what you're asking?
Like a trick or a technique or something
Oh
to
no, tricks.
in
Yes.
the creation of
Okay.
the work
So
to make sure that it's not very heavy, but it's
okay.
beautiful.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the tips I'll be sharing were shared by one of our expert builders, Jordan, who has his own company but is sharing his knowledge in our Discord as well. So the first thing would be draw calls. So that is a very technical term that simply means that every time that you look in a space, how many times the texture has to be um, drawn and rendered. So if you have a single texture that has multiple uses or multiple or it's lighter, it lightens the draw call as well and reduces the number of draw calls. So in essence, that is the key thing that you should look at when you're building a world. But if I was to become less technical and more general, I would just say that take the middle ground, because for better or worse, at this current point in time, VR headsets are still in their infancy. They're becoming more accessible, yes, but they're not at a stage where they can replace or render a realistic environment to the point where it's indecipherable from reality. So, as a builder, you have to remember that and take that into consideration, because your world has to perform well. Because imagine in reality if suddenly things started to lag, right? Like, oh, I'm seeing multiple objects at one time, um, you would have to go to the hospital because you're having a seizure or something like that. But in VR, when you have that, it forms a similar disconcerting experience. So yeah, motion sickness, yes. So that is something that we need to be very actively conscious about when we are building. And I guess in terms of, again, getting a bit technical here, I apologize, I'm an architect, I get very all over the place all the time. So typically curved objects are something that are very expensive to generate. So what our builders usually do is they segment it, like a circle becomes a bunch of segmented lines to make it much lighter on the headset as well. So you still get like a circular column, but it's not exactly a circle. But that's just one of those tricks that we tend to use to reduce the file size.
Yeah, that's
Um, yeah, so I'm sorry, sorry to interrupt, Diana, but we have a question in the comments. If yeah, I can answer it from Ragnar. Um, so Ragnar, basically using Blender, you can upload a project file, but not in a very direct sense. Each platform has their own steps of working. But I would say that there are some newer platforms, which is like hubs, which you can basically export that file and upload it right away. There's some smaller platforms who allow direct export as well. Neos is one of them that allows you to export a Blender object into their space. And yeah, so if I hope this answers your question. But if you're going to say whether there's a one-click uploader, from my knowledge, within the platforms we support, no, there isn't a one-click uploader from Blender online. Yeah.
that's amazing. Let me see if we have any more questions. Okay, so the last one would be how to technically produce good sound.
Okay. So good sound.
We actually have like a recently we just we are seeing a lot of like sound designers that are coming into like the Discord, that they started wanting to share their knowledge and started to teach people about how to do it. So before Jay answered that, I just have to put in, so if you guys whoever is asking, if you're interested, you can kind of like go to the Discord and just mention this. A lot of the people will be more than happy to answer you with that. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So, Ragnar, I do think that there's a lot more to the question than what I've shared. But if you join the Discord community, just drop a text in there, and either I or someone else will reach out to you, and we can have a more in-depth discussion in terms of your world builder journey. Should you choose to take this journey, and yeah, it will definitely help you out with that if that's something that you want. Okay, so back to the question in terms of sound. So sound is something that I would say, okay, so there's, in my opinion, there are three sort of sounds. So there's ambient sound. So let's say if I'm sitting in this room, right, what I'm hearing is the air conditioner. I can hear it whirring. I can hear like the sound of this table as it creaks. So those are sounds that on a conscious level in reality you would not take very significant notice of it. But in a VR world, if you we have one of our worlds called Prayer Breeze. Now that is one of the more highly utilized worlds because there are prayer sessions that are hosted in there every week, or I don't know, every couple of days. Yes, every week. Yeah. So in that world, there's a sound of wind because it's basically an open plain, open field, and there's moving grass. So the builder has inserted the sound of wind to make it feel like you're actually in a field where you can feel closer to God or whichever superior being that they're praying to. So that is his concept, and that is how sound has accentuated that concept. But if I was talking in terms of ambient sound, let's say if you're in a bar or a pub, you would typically hear the sounds of clinking of glass. You would hear the sounds of murmuring in the background. You'll hear some gentle music as well. So these are things that you can take from reality and embrace it, and you should have it in VR. But there's a counterpoint to this, which is the juxtaposition of sound as well, which is like in VR you can actually have use cases in spaces that typically in reality you wouldn't. So you could have like a rave dance studio in a forest. So that is something that you could explore and people have explored, and there's different levels of success in this as well. And so those are sounds that accentuate your concept. There's ambient sound, there's this sort of conceptual sounds, and the last one I would say would be like interim pop sounds, which would be something along the lines of the interactables, like when you pick up or drop or interact with an object. Those sounds are very consciously absent right now, at least in the VR world. Not many people take that into consideration when they're building. So in sound, and just like all aspects of VR, draw as much as you can from reality and use it to create an immersive experience, because at the end of the day, VR is only as good as immersion. And that is something that you have to consider as much as possible, because you only have sight and sound to deal with in terms of like the VR headset. You have to work with what you have. So those are the two things you should focus on.
For sure. Thank you so much. Is there anything that you wish we had asked you today?
um I guess.
I think you kind of like covered a lot of like the I mean we kind of covered like a lot of the things like inside the presentation, but I think I do see that we have somebody. If you want a best 3D sound quality, look and hear visually impaired program, and that will make a special sounds amazing. We'll definitely add that up into our acquisition plan. Thank you so much, Enterprise AR. Okay,
Oh,
so yeah, basically I think like we kind of like cover what we need to cover today. Definitely we if you guys are looking for do you use virtual walls in terms of like marketing engagement, um some parties get together, some cultural event, or of course some NFT galleries, like something that you guys have like either something with a digital twins concept or something that is like completely out of the imagination. Do visit Apples because you'll see the most amazing world builders there. We have been curating this world builder since day one, along with the worlds itself. So if you ever feel that you see one of the world that you really like, and because Apples is actually like a platform agnostic, we have worlds coming in from like different platforms. We have Altspace, we have Rare Chat, we have Mona, we have Mozilla hubs. We have like so many different platforms. So if you are comfortable in like some of the platforms and you wish to create your own activities or like rent, like you love some of the work that this builder has made, definitely consider supporting them through renting it from them as well. That would really kind of like kickstart like all the creators economy that we're kind of like lacking today. But and like Jay said, we are actually a believer that every artist, every builders, every creators needs to be paid. And so let's kind of like support each other, and that's why then Apples is kind of like a peer-to-peer place.
Amazing. Thank you so much for such a beautiful presentation. Of course, we are encouraging everybody to join UpWorlds. Um, Before we go, I'm just going to read this coming from Enterprise AR. I have worked with some before. They live their life in a spatial sound, so their programming is slower, but for a spatial sound, it's.
Yeah, enterprise era, we would definitely love to get in touch with you. So I, I, um, I don't know if
I
we
think
can reach out to
he is
you.
in YouTube, but
Yes. Okay, so we will reach out to you. We would love to have you on our Discord so we can like definitely get in touch with us because I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit excited again because accessibility in terms of people with uh, certain challenges that have been laid their way, things like people who can't stand. That is something that VR really doesn't address right now, and that is something that I'm working on with that we as Upworlds are working on with a game studio to see whether there is some form of like criteria for accessibility within VR as well. And yeah, we definitely love to have your input because I don't think we have anyone with um, with auditory challenges. So yeah, we'll definitely reach out to you. Or if you wouldn't mind, just join our Discord as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So please join the Discord. App Worlds is ready there to teach you how to build your own world and to help you progress with that amazing uh, explosion of creativity that you might have and want to showcase. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that that's it for now. But of course, we're gonna keep in contact through App Worlds in the Discord. Thank you.
thank you so much, guys.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Hope
Thank
to see
you.
all of
Bye
you.
for now.